In this After Effects tutorial, we're going to discuss temporal interpolation. So not where it is, but when is this happening? Let's get to it. In the previous video, we saw that we could have linear interpolation and Bezier interpolation when it comes to spatial interpolation. We can change these by going to Animation, Keyframe Interpolation, and under Spatial Interpolation, we can change this to whatever we want. So I'm going to leave it at Bezier, so only so that I get these handles. And I'm going to delete the middle keyframe only so that I can have this little curvy thingy here. So now we're talking about temporal interpolation. I want you to notice that the path is made out of dots. Closer together dots means slower interpolation. Look at that. These are pretty close to each other. While faster interpolation means farther apart dots. But whether they are slower or faster, each and every one of these dots is equidistant. I don't want that. I want to have an acceleration and a deceleration. So if I select both of these keyframes, and I can do that by clicking on the name of the property that has the keyframes, in this case, clicking on the word position, I can go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, and I can go to EasyEase. EasyEase. Notice the shortcut. It is F9. If I select that, I want you to notice it's almost imperceptible, but you can see it. The dots are closer together here at the beginning, farther apart here in the middle, and finally closer together here. It's accelerating and decelerating. Accelerating and decelerating. I've just changed my temporal interpolation. Look at this now. It's almost imperceptible, but you can see it. There is an acceleration and a deceleration. And because this is temporal interpolation, I'm just going to go ahead and do yay. I'm going to press R for rotation, and rotation is measured in degrees. I'm going to have this go, say, 3 times. I'm going to turn motion blur on. There it is. And now I can select these. I can go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, EasyEase, and look at it now. See how it goes faster and then slows down? If you want to see a graphical representation of this, you can go to the graph editor. And in the graph editor, you can either see a speed graph, so you can see the acceleration and deceleration, or you can see a value graph. And you can change those by clicking here. See how there's a little eyeball here? It's the icon to the right of the eyeball. You can click here and you can change the speed graph. So you can just choose between which ones you want to adjust. In this case, I'm going to change Edit the Value Graph, and I can change it like yay. This represents how many degrees it's turning, and horizontally is representing the time. So you can see that this is going to start really slow and then accelerate until it stops. And it's only 3 seconds long, so see, slow and then super fast until it stops. So in temporal interpolation, you can change either the value, I mean, even if it were position. So if I'm going, say, 3 miles from here, the distance is not changing. If it takes me 15 minutes, I'm going at 5 minutes per mile, right? So I can either do it like that, or I can go in 2 minutes, in which case I'm going faster, but the distance hasn't changed. I can also change the speed by changing the distance, but not the time. So instead of going 5 miles, and I'm still going to do it in whatever, 10 minutes or whatever it is, but now I need to go 50 miles, well, I am going much faster. So I can change the speed by either changing the value of things or by changing the timing of things. So in here, what we are changing is what happens in between. How fast does it start? What happens in the middle? And how fast does it end? So right now, I'm going to change this to the speed graph, and this is what's happening. Slow, 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 super fast. And I can change this however I want. Look at this. This is interesting. If I go here, it goes super fast, and then it goes backwards. Once it hits that 0 point, then it starts going backwards. I'm going to kill the motion blur just so that you can see it. See it? And now it goes the other way. I can change things by going to the speed graph or by going to the value graph. Let me just show it to you a little bit differently. I'm going to just create a little circle like yay. And now I'm just going to go from left, so P for position, keyframe it, to right. All right, so right now it's linear, both temporal and spatial. If I select both of these keyframes, I can now go to animation, keyframe interpolation, and I can change the temporal interpolation to Bezier, continuous, to whatever it is. But as we saw, I can also change it by going to animation, keyframe assistant, EasyEase. If I go to the graph editor, this is my speed graph. So it starts slow, goes faster, and then goes back slow. The higher the line, the faster the speed. Or I can just go to my value graph and notice that the Y is not going up and down. So the Y value stays the same, but I see this little S curve when it comes to the X speed. So it starts slow, accelerates, and then it goes slow again. I'm going to go to the speed graph and I'm just going to change it like yay. I can start super fast and notice that the dots here represent that. I can start super fast and then slow down to a crawl. It's important to understand that I did not change the location where the keyframes were or their timing. They're still starting and ending at the same time, at the same place, but what happens in the middle is completely different. Completely different. I'm going to delete these keyframes by clicking on the stopwatch, and now I'm just going to have it go up and down. So I'm going to go here, keyframe, and then 1 second, like yay. And now I'm going to close the graph editor just for now. I'm going to click and copy and paste and paste and paste and paste and paste. And I'm going to pretend that now they're all equidistant until I go to my graph editor and I see, oh, they're pretty close. So this is not a value graph, this is a speed graph. And because some of the keyframes are closer to others, let me exaggerate to just prove the point. The timing between those two keyframes is different than the timing between the others. Now, After Effects has something that helps us with that. We can click on the word position to select all of those keyframes, and now we can go to animation, keyframe interpolation, and we can tell the keyframes to rove across time. Automatically, our keyframes are now completely equidistant. In other words, the timing of the keyframe hasn't changed. Let me show it to you a little bit differently. I'm going to keyframe this and start yay. I'm going to move 1 second and move only a little bit. Then I'm going to move 1 second and move a lot. You can see it just by looking at the dots that the speed in between these guys won't be the same. And I'm exaggerating again, but if I go to the graph editor, there you go. You can see the speed is all over the place. And if I play it and show it to you, slow, fast, slower, faster, right? If I want to keep this kind of at the same speed, then I can either do it manually, very difficult, or I can select all of these and I can go to Animation, Keyframe Interpolation, and I can say, hey, Rove across time, and now I'm going to get an even speed throughout. It is so much that even if I go here and I go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, EasyEase, it actually accelerates and decelerates going across different keyframes. So this is very, very advantageous to have things rove in time. Very advantageous. So it's going to start slow, accelerate, and then decelerate at the end of the animation. And I can even grab these and change it however I want. So this starts slow and then goes fast across keyframes. So roving in time really means this. It doesn't matter where you put the keyframes. After Effects will change the when you put the keyframes to maintain the speed. So let me just show you one more example of that. I'm going to leave the graph editor and I'm going to delete these keyframes. And I'm going to do the same thing. So position keyframes. So just move a lot here and move a little bit here. And there you go. And we're pretending this is like the most amazing animation you've ever seen. Now, I can select all of my keyframes and I can now rove in time. So Animation, Keyframe Interpolation, rove across time, right? Notice the display of the keyframes. This looks like a regular keyframe. These look like just little dot keyframes. And this looks like a regular keyframe. So the two middle ones are roving in time. Look what happens when I move them in space. Do you see how they're changing in time? That's what roving means. They are now roving in time to maintain speed. So look at the display. Diamond, ping pong, little ping pong, diamond. If I just do an EasyEase, and I'm going to go back to this example that I had here. So I'm no longer talking about roving in time. If I select these two keyframes and I go Animation, Keyframe Assistant, EasyEase, do you see how the shape of the keyframes changed? And now they look like hourglasses? That is your visual indication that these are no longer linear in the temporal realm. There is an acceleration and deceleration happening in here, and you can leave it automatic like it is right now. See it? Or you can manually change it to whatever you want. If you go back to linear, and by the way, all of these things have right clicks. If you go back to linear, and you'd want to do only an EasyEase in or an EasyEase out, Animation, Keyframe Assistant, EasyEase in. An EasyEase in is a gradual deceleration into the keyframe. It's an ease into the keyframe. If I go to an EasyEase out, well, actually, I got to go back to linear. Is a gradual acceleration out of the keyframe. Ease out is an acceleration out of the keyframe. Ease in is a deceleration into the keyframe. And the reason why I'm going so much over this is because other apps have the exact same wording, but it means the opposite. All right, so in Adobe World, an ease out is an acceleration, and an ease in is a deceleration. So there are other things in the graph editor that I have not mentioned, but just for now, let's leave it as it is. I will have another video on the graph editor in which I will explain other icons, other things that you can do with the graph editor. So this brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.